April the 5th. It is 7 p.m. I'd ask Commission Secretary to call the roll, please.
Greg Michelle.
Here.
Jason Whiteman.
Here.
Ron Haza. And Garraway.
Here.
Dave Cataway. Alex Blue.
Here.
Mario Rios.
Here.
Jeff Wade.
Here.
We have Susan Darsh from staff, Michael Guado, and Salazar from council with us. I think I caught everybody. Citizens to be heard this evening, we have one, Mr. Anderson. If you don't mind, just why don't we do it with your item, if that's all right? So if you just sit tight for a minute. And let us do a discussion and action on the minutes of the regular meeting on March 8th, 2022. If there are edits or corrections or any revisions, please bring those to our attention, or we can have a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ron.
may I make a motion to approve minutes as presented?
Second. Jeff, thank you. All in favor of approving the minutes as submitted, please signal aye.
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 Opposed, minutes are approved. Now we're going to move ahead to discussion and action on a request by B.R. Anderson for approval of a variance pursuant to Municipal Code of Ordinances, Chapter 98, zoning, Section 72, Old Town Helotes Special District, subparagraph G7, creative sign review, authorizing the use of a V-shaped freestanding sign for B Daddy's Barbecue, 14436 Old Bandera Road, Lotus. Invite Mr. Anderson to come on up, just for the record, put your name and his business address on record, and take it away.
So my name's B.R. Anderson, B Daddy's Barbecue at 14436 Old Bandera Road. This is, I think, my third time before planning and zoning over the last several years trying to get a sign approved for our business, and we have not been successful yet. Since the last time, I spent a great deal of time reviewing and reading the sign ordinances inside out, upside down, backwards, standing on my head, whatever. And I cannot find anywhere in the sign ordinance where a V-shaped two-sided sign is not allowed. However, so we presented a variance as well. And according to the sign ordinance variance, section 66-81A, a variance can be requested if it's to lessen practical difficulties, to alleviate unnecessary physical hardship, location of the structure, topographical, physical conditions on site or immediate vicinity, or from other physical conditions, street locations, or traffic conditions in immediate vicinity. I believe I meet every single one of those conditions for a variance. We have asked before and before, the way Bandera Road curves, Highway 16 curves, both directions. We have a lot of trees on both sides of the property. The sign that we currently have right now is not visible at all. I cannot tell you how many people that live in the Helotes area or that come from Pipe Creek and drive back and forth, and they come into the restaurant. I always ask people, how'd you find us? Word of mouth, number one. They drive past us 2 or 3 times a day, never know we are there. By not having a sign and not having visibility, y'all are limiting my business ability to grow and therefore generate more tax revenue for the city. So, I just basically think that we meet all the legal requirements currently by the city signed ordinances, and I definitely believe we meet all considerations for the variance. At this point in time, I don't see any legitimate or legal reason why our sign should not be approved. End of statement.
All right, thank you. I would say probably don't go far because there might be questions.
Yep.
And
May I,
Go ahead.
just a point of clarification. For the Old Town Special District, there actually are no variances allowed. How you are considering this sign is through the creative sign review, just to make that clarification.
so this is styled as a variance.
It is not a variant. There is a variance paperwork because he submitted the paperwork. However, the commission should consider this as a creative sign application
And that is because of its location.
in the Old Town Special District, yes.
I'm not allowed to say anything else unless asked, correct?
Yeah, just to keep it, so, but I'm gonna give you a chance in a second, so go ahead.
But what the applicant said is relevant.
I'm sorry.
I said, but what you said as the applicant is relevant to their
Okay.
consideration.
So the creative sign review will take into account the nature of this particular sign. It is creative because it is unaddressed in code. Is that fair to say?
Yes, yeah, yes, the creative sign review is the catch-all for all
Okay.
things not specifically stated within the code itself.
So this is not like your typical wall sign that there's language on how to handle that. This is unaddressed and hence goes into this catch-all process. And if you all noted this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Susan, this remains because it's Old Town and it's creative, it goes to city council?
Yes,
Okay, so we are recommending rather than approving.
yes. And also in your package, I apologize, I'm not able to get it on the screen, but under your agenda item request form, all of the qualifications or it's actually called the creative sign review criteria is spelled out
Right.
in that form.
Right.
So design quality, context, architectural
So
criteria.
just to be clear on the process, everyone, Mr. Anderson, whatever we do here, we'll have this discussion, we'll make a vote, probably, right? And there'll be a recommendation going to council, which will then make the final determination. So having said all that, process-wise, I'd like to open it up to the commission for comments or questions. And Susan, if you do get it going, that you could project it, let us.
I have a question.
Dan, please.
Yes. Hi, Mr. Anderson.
Hello.
You said this is the third time you're in front of the commission. And what happened, what are you doing differently I wasn't here when you came the other two times. So why was it denied then? And what are you doing differently now as you presented?
To be honest with you, I don't remember which sign I have presented in the past.
Okay.
But long story short, the way Highway 16 curves, the way we have trees, we have a huge mott of oak trees next to our driveway. And then where the bicycle shop is between Flores and I, there is a huge amount of overgrowth, trees and so forth hanging out on the highway frontage from Highway 16. I have asked the state to come out and cut that back. They cannot cut oak trees legally, so they won't cut them. So you cannot see my sign, my driveway, my entrance until you are directly on top of us. And so the best sign is one that is angled to catch the southbound traffic and one that is angled to catch the northbound traffic. And I understand I have an Old Town address, but I front Highway 16.
Okay,
I can add on to Mr. Anderson. The other request, there was one in 2016 where Mr. Anderson asked and was approved for a wayfinding sign that went on Riggs Road, Old Bandera Road, just north of the circle to help find. And then in 2018, you came with a variation of this that had multi-tenant, it had other tenants listed on the sign itself, and that was denied.
Because of the multi-tenants on the sign? Oh, it was other reasons.
I think I would have to pull up the actual verbiage, but that was the second.
Okay, so Mr. Anderson, I mean, just to be clear, I totally agree with you that it's frustrating not to be able to see. I mean, because you want everybody, you got a great place, and I like the head with the horns, but, and I totally agree that you need to be seen. And I don't think anybody here is going to say, oh yeah, we can see you perfectly. So yeah, you're preaching to the choir on that issue. But I think the other issue is trying to get your sign to meet the requirements. And I don't even know if it's so much the shape as does it you know, kind of match with the Old Town feel and what it looks like. So I wouldn't like get totally frustrated, even if you don't get very far today, because I think we all agree that you need some attention there. And I would love to see, you know, I would love your place to explode and get all that business there. So let's just try today to see what the critique of it is, so that maybe you can make changes that'll get it where you want it to be. So please don't think we don't believe that. Yeah, well, I get you, because
Okay,
we've all
well,
been in business.
I understand you're
So-
saying the Old Town Helotes feel, but less than a quarter mile away from me, there's a sign that's grandfathered in at Young Brothers that is gigantic, that is in Old Town Helotes, that doesn't have the Old Town Helotes feel. I mean, it's a giant red sign.
But it's
So,
grandfather.
Let me pass it around over here, please. Jeff,
Or Mario?
no, Jay, did you have?
They go.
Okay, Mario, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. First question for Susan, staff. Susan, do we know, are there other V-shaped type signs like this in our community of Helotes for any businesses?
There is a sign further down Bandera Road. I believe it's the dentist's office. And the outcome, they applied for a V-shaped sign. And if I recall correctly, the outcome was they put a monument-style base, but it is a V-shape. But that also is in a different zoning area than Old Town.
Thank you. And just for clarification, I don't know if this is for you, Susan, or for Mr. Anderson, and welcome back, sir.
Thank you.
I noticed, I think I saw in the verbiage, but I just want to confirm, I like to confirm. It says on the visual, the photo, it shows the other nearby businesses to you, but this sign is just for B-Daddies. It's not going to show the other multi-tenants that are located in proximity to you, correct?
That is correct. And to clarify your question to Susan, there are 3 V-shaped signs in Helotes. One is the dentist. One is the place where you buy the plants. What's that called?
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
The place where you buy the plants, whatever.
Oh, next to the gas company.
Yes. And one a little further out on the right-hand side, I think it is the storage locker or something like that. So there are 3.
Thank you for that clarification.
Mario, did you have another question?
If you don't, if
Go
it's
ahead.
okay.
I just want to keep it moving, so.
Yes,
if you have other-
you opened your business in what year, sir?
We opened the restaurant 2016 January.
Yes. Okay, thank you. I do agree with Ann and Mr. Anderson, and just the dialogue that's happening here tonight, that B-Daddies is a business that it's hard to find. I live out there also, and I know that it's you're really literally on top of your drive. So I'm not gonna, there's no question about that. And as Ann eloquently said, we're here to help support if we can, but we also need to follow the code and how we do things. I do believe, though, that I do like this signage, but at the same time, I don't know if it's, I do believe that you are in the heart of Old Town, and it does need to have that feel. So I don't know if there's a good compromise here tonight, and I hope we can come to that. But I 100% agree that we need to do something, because this is a mom and pop business that has survived the pandemic, who's been here for a number of years now. And I do believe that this business needs support from our community. So I would be highly supportive of some type of sign to give you better signage, because I am someone who has had that challenge. I want to go to B-Daddies and I can't find you, and I've lived here for more than a decade. So I do think we should do something. And Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Mario. Jason?
Yeah, so there, I had read through the chapter on Old Town, and there does seem to be some language that is supportive of pole signs. But to your point, you know, a lot of guys come up here and argue, you know, hey, well, that sign is existing. You know, the whole point of codes is, you know, generally we don't like those, and we're not going to allow people to continue to add them. We're trying to take them away, okay? Now, you know, I think there's some room here, and to kind of get back to your last, I did find some notes on your last presentation, and it was 2018. So, you know, one of the issues there, as as I recall from my notes, was that you were applying for a sign that was a couple orders of magnitude taller than our code allows, and this is much more in compliance with our codes. I think the size, it helps. And just clarify, it is just your sign, the graphics are incorrect.
Just my sign.
Okay. The part I think that is, to allude to what some other folks said, Old Town, we are trying to develop that, and literally it says handcrafted look to this. Now, I don't think that the graphics are necessarily not in keeping with that, but the sign is, when I first saw the picture, it reminded me of one that we made somebody tear down the street from you that put up a bandit sign for commercial property, and it was just like this. And I think that we're looking for something with a little bit more, pardon the term, flair. But I think that the idea of this, your graphic and the shape, at least to my mind, is in keeping with the spirit of this. But I think it needs a little something, I think, to try to conform with the character that we're trying to bring to this.
Okay, so my question would be that is our logo, that is our brand. It's on everything we do. It's on our website. It's on our merchandise. It's on everything. Do y'all ask Exxon to change their logo to fit in with the feel of
Oh, but
Helotes?
they're, look, I'm going to be a little bit blunt here. You're putting a really nice sign on a couple 4x4 posts.
I'm sorry,
You're putting a really nice sign with your logo on just a couple of 4x4 posts,
which will be hidden behind the fence that we use to hide our dumpster.
right? But it's
So the
not,
poles will not be visible.
yeah, but, what else is going on there? I mean, it's like a plastic sign.
But others who haven't spoken, who'd like to go to Jeff.
I just have a couple questions. Susan, do you know, is there any type of size restrictions on the creative sign?
No, there is no specific size restrictions. All the things that I copied in that agenda item is it.
Just those specific
Yeah.
ones? Okay. I guess my only statement to you is that, yes, I do understand your need for signage. I just drove it right before I came here, and I feel that at this location right here, you're still not gonna get southbound or coming from Bandera Road. You got trees right there that's gonna completely block that whole half. I know a few years ago, we had mentioned or suggested the idea of possibly talking to the state about getting some location signs along 16 before on either side coming up to you. Have you gone along that path or
I have not.
checked that out?
I have not.
Because to me, I think the whole commission agreed on that, and trying to get, you see along the freeways, it's like exit now for Buc-ee's or whatever, along the highway, getting some type of signage.
I have looked into the signs, the little blue signs that, they have on Highway 16 to exit, and they're rather expensive for a small business. That's why you don't see mom and pops on those very often. That's why you see the chains.
Ron?
Would you consider like rocking your posts? Covering your posts with rock to make them look more hill country?
I mean, I can do that, but the posts are not visible.
Well, it's the concept, and you do see a little bit, so we try to get away from the pole sign look.
I don't have a problem putting some rock around the posts, but when I say they're not visible, I mean, literally, the fence stops here, the sign is gonna start at the top of the fence. So,
And it also helps us later on, when someone else comes in, and they say, well, B-Daddy's doesn't have rock.
yes, because my dumpster is right there.
Well, but you see where it puts up.
I mean, I could be a smart aleck and say, do you want me to rock my dumpster?
Let me go to Alex.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I would echo a number of the concerns that are already identified, and I would just qualify that you mentioned 3 signs. 2 of them have been grandfathered and were there a long time ago, so they're not subject to the goal, to the criteria that we're talking about. The one that has been added since these conditions were there was the one at the dentist office over on Whippoorwill and Highway 16. And what I can tell you is that obviously, as our staff person indicated, that they are in a completely different zoning area. Actually, I think Are they in our ETJ even? But
It may be.
and yeah, I think they're in the ETJ as well. But when we considered that sign, we did consider the entire surface of both of those sides as if it was just sort of a flat sign that was slightly bent as opposed to being a back-to-back sign. So when you consider the size of this sign and you consider it being that way, it makes it extremely large compared to anything. The purpose of the design of the creative sign ordinance in Old Town is specifically, and I'll read it right out of what the code that Ms. Darst sent to us, constitute a substantial aesthetic improvement to the site. Not quite sure the sign as presented does that, and shall have a positive visual impact on the surrounding area, to be of unique design, exhibit a high degree of thoughtfulness, imagination, and incentiveness. And that's why the creative sign ordinance was there, because we have other sign ordinances for Old Town. But the whole idea, like, for example, what this commission and council approved, the sign being put on an old truck, that is a creative use of the creative sign, not a pole sign of 96 square feet, which we wouldn't allow anywhere. You also indicated that, yes, it's Old Town, but it faces Highway 16. But even if we applied the Highway 16 side of it, this would be far away from what would be approved anyway, both in height, pole sign, and everything else associated with it. It wouldn't even qualify for that side of it.
That's why you asked for a variance.
And we've been asked for variances of various types like this, and they've been consistently said no, et cetera. I think the concern here clearly is that obviously it's visibility. But just because there's a curve in the road doesn't eliminate this commission's responsibility to live up to the codes, et cetera. The other question I have, and this is really more one for our staff area, there is currently a monument sign now. Would this not also constitute a second sign on the same side? And would not that also be something that has to be addressed should this be recommended and or approved? Okay.
We would abandon the monument sign.
Okay. And so those are the things that I have concern with the way this is presented. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Mr. Anderson, a couple questions. Because you didn't really present us the sign as it would appear with these different panels with other businesses, are those panels going to be empty? Is the size that's represented on what you showed us of your logo?
There's in your packets, we used that picture as a reference because it was a color picture, but there's a note there that says that the whole surface area, the entire surface area would be the B Daddy's logo. There's also some hand-drawn pages behind that as well.
So that logo would be essentially
Would be the whole surface area.
the whole, okay, so it
Yes.
would not be just in the upper quadrant?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to confirm. This is the proposed location by the dumpsters you indicated, that's your property, right?
Yes, sir.
The dumpsters obviously.
On the other side of that fence is highway property.
So that fence doesn't look like it's in terrific shape, just by driving.
Actually, that fence is metal pipe with cedar posts wired to it.
So,
So that fence is very sturdy.
and did you put that fence in?
No, sir, that fence has
There.
been there for 40, 50 years.
Right, okay. So someday that fence might need replacing or upgrading or whatnot. We'll see, I guess, but.
May I ask one question?
No, not at the moment.
Nope. Okay.
Hang on. You said it's your property. The monument sign, I understand that you indicated, well, you'd abandoned that. Did you put that in when you opened the business?
No, sir, that sign has been there for approximately 25 years.
No, but
The logo,
the logo.
Yes.
So the sign was existing
yes.
in the previous establishment, okay. All right, anybody who didn't speak wish to have David, anything?
No, I've been talking.
You're good.
Everybody here.
All right,
One just last thing, if you may.
yeah, Ann, did you have something else to?
Yeah, go ahead, Ron.
Go ahead, Ron.
So just to clarify, how much sign is going to show from the top of the fence to the top of the sign?
4 foot.
4 foot, all right.
And I just wanted to say, Mr. Anderson, like even looking at the sign that's on your restaurant building, that, even though I can't see it very well, that is still your logo, correct?
That is our old
that-
logo. That's our next thing, is to replace the old logo with a new logo.
Oh, okay, because I was going to comment that even though I can't see it well, it looks more aesthetically pleasing than the one that you're proposing. So I was thinking that maybe you could be consistent and maybe that
Yeah,
would,
we abandoned that logo
okay.
3-4 years ago, and we just haven't gotten around to changing it up there because quite honestly, it's not visible to the street.
Okay, okay. I'm just thinking of a suggestion of maybe getting some graphic designer that could make it a little bit more aesthetic, you know, aesthetically pleasing to the Helotes, you know, criteria, that's all. Okay.
All right. I think we're good, Mr. Anderson.
Am I allowed to ask one question?
Not really at this
Okay.
point.
I have one more question.
Yes, go ahead. If there's a question for you, you can answer.
Yes, so, in our plans here, it does have 6-foot poles and then 2 foot of the other sides and then 4 foot of the daddies. So they're just eliminating that, so it's gonna go 6 foot to the poles and 4 foot above that,
So be 10 feet.
not 16.
The one with 6 foot above was an original design, and I believe that was used just simply as a reference. But that is not the sign that is proposed.
And my last question is, at what angle are these gonna be at? Is it gonna be a 90-degree angle? Is it gonna be 120 degrees?
It will be at approximately 37.68 degrees. I don't know, to be honest with you, Jeff. I hadn't really looked at it that closely. At this point in time, it's just, can I please have a sign on Highway 16? And Alex's comment about getting a truck and putting a sign on it. Actually, my next option is in Pipe Creek where I live, they sell 15-foot tall pigs that are on a trailer. And my next option is to go buy a 15-foot tall pig on a trailer and paint B-Daddies on it and park it in the parking lot. I mean, that's my next sign option. That's creative.
All right. Thank you, sir. So I think we're good. Just to confirm that we're all on the same page, Susan, the proposed sign surface area is 48 square feet. Is that correct? Per side, excuse me.
32.
$48 per side is 96. Is that not correct?
4 foot by 8 foot, 32.
Okay, that's not what we received, at least in our materials.
It's what was submitted.
The sketch,
Yeah,
Get that,
the
correct?
sketch has,
yeah, the sketch shows it correctly. The original document said 32. Staff then corrected, looking at both sides, but then remember, it was the correction had to do with that extra 2 feet you're now removing, which is where you get the difference between 32 and 48.
So again, the sign is, the poles, the base, whatever you want to call it, these are 6 foot, is that correct? And on top of that is the actual 4 foot by 8 foot sign. All right, thank you. Okay, at this point, Mr. Anderson, I think you could sit down for now, and I would invite a motion from the commission noting that this is, again, a recommendation item for council.
Chairman,
Yes,
since this is not a variance, you are deciding on a creative sign,
yes?
it would not go to council.
The language here, Susan, shows the word variance. That was what's stopping me right now in this whole thought.
And on the,
On the item, on the agenda item, it says variance.
Yeah, for approval of a variance.
it's not, there are no variances. I apologize. It is a little, it's not clear.
No, it's I understand.
Okay,
That's,
just-
I was
I'm-
having trouble understanding.
So the code for Old Town is that there are no variances allowed to signs. The only signs that are outside of what's specified in code have to be approved as a creative, under the creative sign review. So that is not a variance. variance is as exactly what Mr. Anderson described earlier. You're showing a need for something. This is so you're considering this item based on the criteria in the agenda item form. And because it's not a variance, it will not go into city council as per the list change in code.
So are we not limited by the fact that this has been published one way and now staff is correcting it to something different?
I don't believe so.
Al?
Chairman, can I ask, you indicated a recent change. Has that change been communicated to this council to this commission? Because in the past, our actions on all signs were considered recommendations and not actual actions.
Michael?
Did council act to change that?
Yes, they did.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
that was a month ago. So I'm sorry, I don't have the exact date, but anything,
Okay.
so anything that does not require a variance, it's,
Buck stops here.
only variances will go to city council.
I knew there, okay.
Okay. Okay, so on the recommendation of staff then, we will pursue this as the creative sign request, even though it is published differently. And it will not go to city council. So, go back to inviting a motion. And Mr. Anderson, may I ask you a question? If this body were to propose your enclosing the base in some fashion, somebody up here proposed rocking it in, or in other way, concealing or disguising the poles, would you be amenable to that?
Yes, as I stated earlier, I will rock the poles if necessary.
Thank you. So, at this point, a motion would be welcomed. So gather your thoughts on what you would like to propose, and we can talk about a motion and vote.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a question. I'm not going to propose anything right now. I don't even know if I would approve anything without knowing what, I'm sorry, this might be nitpicky, but at what angle this is going to be at. You can say it's going to be a V shape at 175 degrees, and that's 16 feet almost of visible signage. Whereas if you put it at 40 degrees, it's completely different.
I don't know if the original sign designer.
Mr. Anderson, come up to the mic so we can get a right record.
I'm looking to see if in the original sign design, if he had an angle on here. If I may, I can check my email and see if it's in there.
Sketch drawing of the parking lot with the dumpster and the fence and stuff, but
Michael or Susan, was it indicated in anything that you've seen?
It's not indicated in anything I presented to them.
Okay.
Give me just a moment and I will find the original. Ah, here we go. I don't have a specific angle.
Mr. Chair, I have another question or comment. And I was thinking the same thing that Jeff mentioned. I've been thinking about this since this meeting started, about compromise. And so I believe that V sign, and it's stated that when you do that V-shaped sign, it increases the real estate, if you will, of the sign. If we allowed one sign, just one of those panels, and position it the way the other signs in the nearby proximity of that area are, and I know there's a lot of those establishments are grandfathered in. with their existing pole signs, but they all share one common trait. They're all positioned, I believe it's north and south on 16. So you have traffic coming both ways, and you do see the sign. And it would definitely be a big improvement from what's there now with the monument sign that's lower and hard to see. I would think Mr. Anderson would agree with that. But my thought, the reason I bring this up is because I think that would get us to a better place of trying to fit in with the Old Town Helotes character. And it would take up less square footage as well, and it would still be visible. That's where my mind has been all night. And Jeff just triggered that thinking because of the largeness of the V shape. So I would consider if this commission, with the commission making that recommending that motion.
Other discussion?
So I'm sorry, are you saying that instead of it being the V, it would just be one side?
We would just add that on the stipulation that it's a one-sided sign, but it's double-sided on both sides, but it's our traditional signs that we have here in Helotes. We're not gonna add, I believe, Susan and Alex clearly stated that and Mr. Anderson clearly stated, we have 3 here, but 2 of them are grandfathered in. We have 1 that's a dentist, but the majority of our signage here is the traditional signs of the one canvas, but it has 2 sides to it. It's not V-shaped.
You're saying it's perpendicular to the road?
Thank you, perpendicular.
Well, if we get past that, the V, and just have the one side, we have to answer the question, is it creative? Is it aesthetic? Are the aesthetics complying with the requirements of the design quality, the contextual criteria, and the architectural criteria? I think we got that issue as well. So if you did the one side and you did the stone on the poles, and what else? I don't know.
I just think that's getting us closer to where we want to be.
Yeah, definitely closer.
I mean, obviously, as you mentioned, it would be great if the color scheme and was not it blended in more with the Old Town feel. But I don't know if I know that a logo is a logo, and you don't want to disrupt that. But at the same time, I don't know if a lighter shade could be used or something to just. But if you can't do that, you can't do that because of legal. But it's just a thought.
I have a question.
Yes, David.
What other signs in that vicinity would this need to blend with? At the same time, if it's not directly in the whole Old Town Helotes area, it seems like it would be best interest of all of us to compromise and not necessarily follow those rules to a T. So I guess my biggest question is, what other signs in proximity does this need to blend with? Sorry, I didn't have any material ahead of this meeting to kind of go out and look at that, so I'm just.
I can tell you, I can answer the question, Mr. Chair.
Well, the staff want to speak to that?
I could tell you that right next door is the sign that this commission approved of the Old Town Helotes entry sign. It has the color scheme of what this commission wanted. It's right next to B Daddy's.
On 16.
On 16. Okay. It's the entrance into Old Town.
But that, if I may,
Please.
again, that sign is a pole sign, but it's multiple panel. It has a scroll top. It's posts, I think, have scrolls on the top. You know, this sign.
Yes, sir.
You know, I have no objection to the logo. I don't even really care about the color, right? But there's no frame, there's no rock, there's no scroll tops, there's no detail, there's no material that is echoing what the creative sign, the creative sign says handmade, materials reflective of the Old Town, the vision, handcrafting. None of that's here. So then we're kind of falling back on, well, are we trying to analyze it under the traditional monument sign? But clearly it doesn't match that either. And then, again, I don't want to be the sign Nazi here. I think that we want Mr. Anderson to have a bigger sign.
Yes.
We want him to have the visibility he needs. But I think it's falling short, and, you know, B, it's, you know, there's not really enough information. You know, we can throw out ideas here all day, but, you know, we don't know the angle. We don't know, you know, what, you know, we can spitball ideas, but I mean, we're not here to design the sign,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
No, I understand
And it could
that.
be rock, it could be a
Right.
timber frame, it could be scroll top, it could be, you know, Lord knows what,
Something that
any
blends
number
in
of things.
with the nearby sign,
Yeah.
right?
And I think, you know, I don't want to speak for everybody, I think we're very close in terms of the side. You know, if he wants to echo something similar to that, you know, I think that we're well within our right to approve. I just don't see enough here for us to hang a motion on, is the problem.
Alex?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I think that there's a great deal of concern that's been echoed, and I agree that I don't think that's this body's purpose to try to sit in, at this time, try to design a sign that we can force into something. And I think everyone in here agrees there are issues with this with regard to its it's meeting the criteria and intent. And so I'm just going to put a motion out there, and we can talk about the motion, but we can also just make our voice based on how you vote on the motion, and that's really what the end result is. I would also add that a decline from this body is always appealable to council. And many times prior actions have gone to council and been changed by the applicant prior to council, taking the feedback from this body, and then can have a further discussion with council. So I move that the planning and zoning,
Can I,
oh,
just, sorry to derail that.
sure.
So exciting to get a motion.
Just stop me, okay.
I would just put this out there just to get your thought on it. You're hearing the tenor of the discussion. Would you be interested in withdrawing the motion, withdrawing the item for a month to give you an opportunity to take some of this feedback that you're getting here now, which is somewhat informal, and doing something else? Or fully within your right, just let us do a motion, figure out what to do, and go from there.
To be honest with you, I'm a little blindsided by the way Susan presented this, because I visited with Susan and Michael a month ago, and tonight was the first time I had heard there was no variances in Old Town, and I don't appreciate that one bit
So
at
Mr.
all.
Anderson, if you could just answer Mike.
You can just refuse the damn sign. I'm gonna have a 15-foot tall pig in the parking lot. It's creative. I'm done. Y'all are so anti-business, I am done. Don't be surprised if we move out when our lease is up in July.
Alex, I interrupted you.
Are we assuming he's not withdrawing it then?
I'm assuming he's.
Okay.
So I'd like to give you the opportunity to make a motion.
And I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission deny the request for approval of the creative sign and/or however it's worded in our system for under Section 9872 Old Town Special District, subparagraph G7 for creative sign review for B Daddy's Barbecue located at 14436 Old Bandera Road. Thanks.
Is there a second to the motion?
A second.
That was
Me.
David. Discussion on the motion, Alex.
I don't know that we need any further discussion in it. Thank you.
David, any discussion of the motion?
None.
Anyone else wish to speak to the motion?
Well, I would just like to say that as painful as it is to deny the sign, I am reminded that we are setting precedents. And, you know, if we allow it, then it just kind of erodes the code. So we either have to change the code or stick by the requirements. And it is under creative sign, and I didn't feel like it complied with the creative sign. That's all I wanted to say.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to say, I mean, I agree with what's happening here, but it's just disappointing
just to see the outcome here. And I don't want to harp on it. I know enough's been said, but it's just, I felt like we were getting closer. I thought we were getting to I thought we were getting closer to getting to where everybody could be happy here, and it doesn't look like it's going to go that way. But I'm just glad that this commission was trying to throw out ideas. Just want to put that up there.
Jeff?
I want to say that I don't feel that this sign did follow the creative sign process, and we had almost the exact same discussion last time when he brought the pole sign in, saying, we suggest this, come back with something else. We are not the design company. We made a lot of suggestions at that time, and nothing happened for 3 years.
Anyone else who hasn't spoken to the motion?
I really appreciate the discussion. I mean, I've been flip-flopping back and forth in my mind this whole discussion regarding this, but ultimately, it sounds like there's great ideas that were thrown out about what could be done, but it appears that he wasn't really open to that. Although he says he was, it doesn't appear to me he was.
All right, so the motion is to disapprove the request by B.R. Anderson for a sign pursuant to Chapter 98 zoning, Section 72, Old Town, Helotes Special District, subparagraph G7, creative signs for a V-shaped freestanding sign for B Daddy's Barbecue, 14436 Old Bandera Road, Helotes, Texas. All in favor of the motion, please signal aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion is approved. I presume staff will notify the applicant, make sure that he's aware of his rights to appeal this directly to council as well. I appreciate everyone's discussion and comments, and certainly tone how that ended, but I think everybody here performed and acted with great professionalism, so thank you. That does bring us to the end of the agenda. Do we have a motion to go out, Ron?
Mr. Chairman, may I make a motion to it?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of adjourning, signal aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned at 7:48.